Okay, so good. So, you know, it's always good at the end of the day to speak to a packed house. This is the section of the summit that we call the people here the bitter enders. You're the people that are the most committed advocates, and we appreciate that you're in this session. You folks can sit down. Relax, relax. Okay.
There's so many people in here, I'm getting nervous.
Well, I know. Well, what it is just remember the thousands and thousands of people will look at this on the internet, and that's why we have these great sessions recorded. So my name is Bernie Siegel, and I'm the Executive Director of Genetics Policy Institute and founder and chair of this event, the World Stem Cell Summit. This is our 10th annual event. And as many of you know, the Genetics Policy Institute is actually a patient advocacy organization. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded 11 years ago by myself, a patient. I was a cancer survivor. So we have found over the years, and it is our belief, that the underpinnings of support for the field of stem cells and regenerative medicine, it's not the science, it's not the industry, it's the consumer, it's the patients. And if you ask the man or woman in the street, do you support stem cell research, 70% or more are going to say yes. And it's not because they understand the science necessarily, but they see it as a personal health issue. A personal health issue, not a public health issue, a personal health issue impacting their lives and the lives of their loved ones. So over the years, we have celebrated the patient advocate. We have brought them into the meeting to meet the scientists, regulators, and industry with great success. Many, many times a scientist that studies cells in a lab dish doesn't really meet a patient that might be impacted downstream. So this is an opportunity for the scientist and patient to come together. We couldn't be more delighted, of course, to have a panel today, Effective Patient Advocacy and the Power of Commitment. Well, you can't proceed unless you are committed to moving forward with this field. You have to be really committed in order to build any kind of organization and momentum. So today we have as our speakers, we have David Bales, who will speak second. David, of course, is a native of Austin, and he says he found his passion in life when he founded Texans for Stem Cell Research, a 501c3 nonprofit in 2008. And let me tell you, when I first heard David call me up with that Texas accent, all empowered because he believed in stem cells, putting together a great team of volunteers, I was so excited. And make no mistake, knowing that the Texans for Stem Cell Research are here was one of the reasons we looked again to take the World Stem Cell Summit to Texas. He has a great story for his organization. Also speaking today is Tory Williams. Now, Tory Williams, now this is a story and a half, okay? Born and raised in the small town in Millry, Alabama. Millry, Alabama, population 6. How many people in Millry? 800. She's a mother of 7, co-founder and executive director of the Alabama Institute of Medicine, AIM. She played an instrumental role in the form of passing the T.J. Atchison Spinal Cord Injury Act. Now, her story has been now in a book, The Inevitable Collision, that is making a real impact. It's just been published, been very well received. And I was talking to Dr. Fink of the FDA, who was here, who picked up the book and was looking at it, and he thought it was an incredible read. Now, from a zero start to what Tory has achieved in basically 1 year is simply astonishing. So as our first speaker today to tell us how she's done this and what her goals are and what we can expect from her as an advocate, I'm going to introduce Tory Williams.
Thank you all. It's truly an honor to be here. This is actually my second summit. So last year, a group of our constituents from Alabama made the trip to San Diego for the World Stem Cell Summit. And just as you're experiencing this week, this is an incredible opportunity to network. It opened so many doors for us last year. And as Bernie said, we really accomplished a lot in a year. My name is Tory Williams, and I am a co-founder and executive director of the Alabama Institute of Medicine. We launched AIM in April of 2013. Now, some of you who are, very familiar with the summit and with stem cell research recognize the man on my left in the photo. That's Roman Reed. Roman is the chairman of our board of directors. He's also a co-founder of AIM. And together we partnered to launch this nonprofit organization in Alabama, a very conservative state, but a state that definitely has been very supportive and receptive to our efforts for stem cell research. My initial passion for becoming an advocate and an administrator in a nonprofit organization stems from my own personal experience with disease. My sister, Tara, she's 4 years older than I am, and in 1989, she was diagnosed with a very rare children's cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. It's a soft tissue carcinoma, and we almost lost Tara several times. She endured 3 years of aggressive chemotherapy, and just the month before we published the book, she had been in remission for almost 20 years, and she was diagnosed again with a second type of cancer. So breast cancer has now affected my sister. But in 2010, I was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. This is passed down from my mother's side of the family. And I was jogging one day and just started hurting really bad in my side. I thought it was a gallbladder issue and went to the hospital, had some tests, and they discovered I had PKD. So I'm personally diseased. I have people in my family who are, and I have loved ones and friends who are in wheelchairs and are battling, these debilitating diseases that we have to do something about that. And I think this event and what we're trying to do in our own communities is really going to make a difference. So Roman and I, we met on social media, on Twitter, the funniest thing. A friend of my family, TJ Atchison, was involved in a car accident in 2010. Based on certain circumstances with his injury and the level of his injury, he was the first patient in the world to be injected with human embryonic stem cells. So this young man from South Alabama, conservative state, we were in the Bible Belt area, he had to make a really tough decision of whether or not he would try and advance medicine using a controversial drug. But he did it because he decided it was the right decision for him, because he did want to advance medicine, regardless of what others would think of him. He did his own research. He took a lot of time to understand the procedure, and he learned that these cells are not destroying life, but they're from fertility clinics. They're harvested from leftover embryos that are going to be thrown away in medical waste bags. So TJ, he felt like this was the right thing for him to do, and he became an advocate. So TJ and I started documenting his story of being the first patient in the world to be injected with these cells. One thing led to another. We felt like we wanted to do more than just, advocate for stem cell research. We wanted to raise funds. We wanted to pass laws. We wanted to change the entire landscape of the biotech community in Alabama. So we started doing a lot of research and connecting with people across the United States, and we knew we had to find one of the strongest advocates out there for spinal cord injury, so it was Roman. I connected with Roman on Twitter and asked for his help, to connect me with the researchers behind the Geron trials, and if he could, connect me and we could have interviews with these individuals. So I flew to California, interviewed Roman, interviewed Dr. Hans Kierstead, who developed the protocol for the Geron trials. And while I was in California, I asked Roman if he would consider visiting Alabama and meeting with our Senator Mark Cahey. And so Roman immediately the next month flew to Alabama, and we had a meeting in a little local restaurant where we built the framework to TJ's Law. So let me jump to this real quick since it's on the slide deck. The target applications that we're going to focus on with our nonprofit organization are stem cell research for diabetes, for cardiovascular disease, orthopedics, oncology, and neurological disease and injury. We were very successful in gaining legislative support for TJ's Law. We started the conversation in November of 2011. We actually passed the law in May of 2012. So in the photo, you see TJ in the front. That's Senator Mark Cahey to the left, my parents, myself, and my oldest daughter, Governor Bentley, and then the representative from our county. We received bipartisan support to fund $400,000 for spinal cord injury research at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. UAB is the research hub of our state. They employ over 20,000 researchers to conduct various types of research on sickle cell anemia, on cardiomyocytes. So we actually do have researchers in our state working on stem cell research, and it's a phenomenal trend that we've seen that they are desperately needing funding. They were so excited to have a program in place that was going to fund their research. The goals of our program, we want to offer each year during the spring season an RFA application. So last year, when we were at the summit in San Diego, we invited a young man from Birmingham to attend the trip with us. He's just a young man trying to find his way in life, and he wants to find something that he can focus on. He's from a very wealthy family, so philanthropy was important to him, and he learned of AIM's mission and goals, so he wanted to come with us to the summit in San Diego. After Chris Drummond made the trip with us, it opened his eyes up to this huge biotech community from around the world, and we were able to capture all of that energy and bring it back to Birmingham with us last year. So when we returned to Birmingham, Chris Drummond made a check made out to AIM for $1 million. So it really launched us and enabled us to launch our first round of funding. So we were able to do that. This April, we awarded 3 different researchers at UAB close to $900,000. So we were very quick to disperse that money. We will continue to do that every year. These researchers will apply for our funding, and we will send the applications to a double-blinded, peer-reviewed panel. Dr. Jane Lukowski from Asteria, she was actually the chairperson for that committee last year and is going to review the applications again this year. We also a goal of ours is to build a core laboratory, because it's really interesting in Alabama. There's these brilliant researchers at some medical institutions and academic where they're not allowed to do certain types of research. So we want to offer them an opportunity to perform their research on our space, where you can check politics and whatever else at the door and come in and do the research that you believe can help save lives. Another final goal for AIM is we want to have a hospital space, and this is very doable in our area because there's only 3 major hospitals really in Birmingham, and none of those really are in position to offer clinical trials. So we want to build a hospital where we can recruit administration and staff to come in and be able to execute the clinical trials if we are to that point where we can fund it and take it to the patient. So we have a 5-year plan where we are really, we're an ambitious group, and we have immediately learned that in order to fund a nonprofit, you have to have a stable funding mechanism. So we've launched several spinoff companies to partner with us and to serve as incubator type, where they will funnel money back into our nonprofit organization. So we have 3 of those spinoff companies now. The legislators in our state are very interested in learning the economic economic boost of what stem cell research can offer our community and our state. And so our projections indicate that based on the spinoff companies we have already established, that over 300 jobs per year will come into our state. Tax revenues into the 7 figures. So it's been very positive to show this information to these legislators and to gain their support. Just in healthcare cost reduction, if we were able to find a cure for cancer, the percentage of that, just a 1% reduction in mortality from cancer, has a present value of $500 billion. And a cure would be worth $50 trillion. So when you put these numbers out there, it really makes researchers want to work hard and get toward that goal. AIM is determined to raise at least $10 million before 2016. We do want to keep our organization very lean. 90% of all donations are going to go back to the researchers, only 10% for overhead. And that's an astounding number to be able to donate that much money to research. We do believe that garnering support is crucial to our ability to sustain ourselves, and we have been successful with legislative support. We're also educating people. Education is the key. I'm a school teacher at heart, so my degree is in education, and in order for us to get this message out there and to gain constituent support, we have to have a vehicle, a way to do that. So it's through conferences like this, and it's also going to town hall meetings, attending church events. It's interesting because the book, which we're going to talk about in a minute, has actually even made it into our Southern Baptist Church Library. We have several copies of that there now. So it's really just taking time to talk to individuals, talk to family and patient groups, and let them understand what our research is about, what we support, and what our goals and missions are. The first spinoff company of AIM is Sacred Cells Research Partners. Early on, Roman and I understood that we would have to be very creative with raising the amount of money that we needed to support the researchers in our state. So we partnered in November in the for-profit sector. We launched our first spinoff company. And we've also collaborated with Dr. Hans Kierstead, who is very supportive of helping us to launch a pilot study in January of this next year. We're going to use his neural progenitor cells in combination with this unique technology that's based out of Birmingham from Dr. Raj Singh. His company is Vivo Biosciences, Inc., and Dr. Singh is just a phenomenal, brilliant researcher who has really the only world's globally patent technology that uses a human-derived natural scaffold. It's a matrix. So you're talking about having a natural delivery system where your body's not going to reject the cells. It thinks that it's its own environment using this Hubiogel. So taking the perfect delivery system with this great FDA-approved cell line, and it is very likely that we will have some positive data to show in fall of next year. We're excited about that. The second spinoff company is VivoStem, Inc. Now, since Roman he lives in Fremont, California, so he's located in the heart, really, of research where the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine is. Roman's been a spokesperson for Prop 71. He's worked closely with the researchers in California. He has seen firsthand what potential is out there. So we're going to launch this company before February of 2015, VivoStem, Inc., and it's going to be headquartered in California. We've also been talking a lot with our friends here in Texas, and we hope that there's an opportunity for us to expand some operations here as well. The third spinoff company that is already established is WellPace Medical. So you talk about all of these products that we hope to have that are in the pipeline, but you have to have a way to get these products out into the physician's hands, into the market. And so the CEO of this company is Ron Williams. He's here in the room also. And they're very excited. They do not have employees. They have 1099 contractors who are aggressive contractors who will go out into each territory and get these products to the physicians and doctor buying groups. In the last slide today, I told Bernie that I wanted to just highlight on this. It's in your bag, the book that we've published, Inevitable Collision. We've worked really hard on this book for over 3 years, and at times we thought we'd never see it in print, but it's such of an important story that we had to stay determined and be persistent in our efforts. So it was last year at San Diego when Marianne Liebert, she's the CEO of Marianne Liebert Publishing, she was awarded the Education Advocacy Award last year. And it was when she gave her speech that I knew that that was the home for this story. We had to place it with someone that would give it, the justice and the time and effort to really pull it together and package it so beautifully like she did. So this story chronicles the Geron trial. It starts from the very beginning, from TJ's accident. I was able to interview TJ and also another patient enrolled in the Geron trials. As I mentioned, I flew to California several times and interviewed all of the researchers involved in this trial and the funding mechanism behind it. We all know that clinical trials cost $20-30 million, and it takes a committed group to really fund those clinical trials. So this story, captures everything in it, and also it talks about our hard work and our persistence, and that's as you as advocates out there. Janet from Minnesota, we talked this week, and I want to inspire you that one person can make a difference. You truly can. You just partner with those who share in your goals and missions, and never give up. You always have to wake up every day and say, today I'm going to do something a little harder, make another contact. You just use social media. That's been a great resource for us. But and also to know that all proceeds from the book are going to fund FDA-compliant stem cell research. So, if you have recommendations for a good book read, please recommend the story, because you'll also be helping advance research in the process. If there's not any questions, that wraps up my... You will? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your attention, and look forward to your questions at the end.
This is an organization that hadn't been in existence very long, and it just takes commitment. Really, congratulations. That's an amazing story. So now I'm going to bring up my friend, David Bales. He'll tell you the story about Texans for stem cell research.
I'm not doing a striptease up here. I'm just taking that off.
I've seen everything.
First of all, I know Tory's story, but not as in depth. I think we've got to give her another round of applause. I'm proud to be up here with her. We have a similar story. Bernie earlier talked about personal health as being 70% of the reason people get in it or are interested in stem cell. From my perspective and my opinion, I think 100% of the reason that people get into advocacy is because they lost somebody that they loved dear to them way before it was their time to leave. 21 years ago, my daddy, who was a state representative here in Texas, and he had a reputation for always fighting for the underdog, and he helped write the state ethics law with Jim Maddox, who became Attorney General for 8 years. It was written under the elm trees at Schultz's Beer Garden, the restaurant bar in Texas that we owned for 36 years. And Molly Ivins once said, what a fitting place for stem cell ethics, ethics legislation in Texas to be written. That was a place where a lot of the politicos hung out. I was working for the Texas Senate 21 years ago, and my daddy gave me a phone call and said, I'm not feeling well. He had high blood pressure, and he had just been diagnosed with diabetes, but for all parts, he seemed okay. I drove home. 12 minutes later, I got there, and he was laying on the bathroom floor and unable to awake or get up. And so we called 911, and those people were absolutely incredible. They were there 8 minutes later. His arm was going like this, and he said, son, I'm too tough to die, so don't you worry about this. And his arm was going like Dr. Zhivago's, he said. And turned out to be a devastating stroke. He was in the hospital for 60 days. I took the nights. My grandma took the days. And his trachea was frozen where he couldn't eat or drink. I had no idea a stroke could be so devastating. He kept a daily diary and a notebook. Up at 8, lunch with Alan, David, and Tory. all his finances, what was happening on the world stage. And after he got home, he was going through the rehab and trying to put a thread through a needle, and he wasn't himself. And we found him, about 8 months later in bed, and he had passed. And on his bedside was the spiral notebook, and it said, I now realize I suffered brain damage from my first stroke, and this is what I think you should do with the restaurant, and this is what I think you should do. Gave me instructions. So I have peace with him leaving us when he did, because if he couldn't be Larry Bales, he didn't want to continue living that way. So that's my inspiration. 7 years ago, I was working at the Capitol, and we decided to pick a new issue. And I'd kind of read the tea leaves, and I thought that stem cell research was being misinterpreted. There was a lot of misinformation out there, and in our conservative state as well, we felt the need to educate people. And so we formed our 501c3, and we want to be like Tory when we grow up. She's done more in 2 years than we ever thought, so you should be very proud of what you've done. I'm really proud of you. So what we started doing was the education. In Texas, the education was going and beating down bad legislation for 3 sessions. I visited with Bernie and Allen about this. I mean, our state has really, we may have turned the corner, but Texas has always been a leader in biomedical research. I mean, you just think about the Houston Medical Center with Dr. DeBakey and First Heart Transplant. There's 13 other states that are funding stem cell research, and we're not one of them. So we're hoping this session to push that ball forward. The beautiful thing of what Bernie and Allen do, and it was our thought to get the smart people in the room, let's get the collaboration and discussion going. So our greatest success has come, the culmination of 7 years of hard work ended with us receiving the Educational Award on Tuesday night, or Wednesday night, and that was absolutely wonderful. It was the product of so many people's hard work, and we couldn't have been prouder to accept that on behalf of everybody. But I'll give you a little play-by-play of what's transpired. Dr. Doris Taylor, who's at the Texas Heart Institute, and one of the odds-on favorites of building a human heart that will be functional, she joined our medical advisory committee recently, and after the awards dinner, she pulled me aside and said, okay, David, here's what we're going to do. She goes, me and 20 other like-minded individuals are going to get behind you. We're going to help fund your organization in a better way, and I've already started on a strategic plan for next year and the legislature and things of that nature. And then Henry Cisneros said, I want to get Austin and San Antonio together and try to work on the biomed and the biotech side. Let's join forces. So I said, that sounds great. When I told Doris that later that night, she said, well, you let Henry know that you got to put Houston and Texas in the boat. Well, Mary Pat Moyer, who's a member of our medical advisory committee member and just an incredible lady here in San Antonio, she calls it making soup. She said, the reason San Antonio started making soup a long time ago is we didn't have the resources Houston or Dallas did. So you got to get everybody making soup together. So now our goal is to have Texas make soup together, including the medical center in Houston, UT Southwestern, all the medical folks in Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin, which University of Texas of Austin has a new medical center scheduled to open in 2016. So that's our goal, is to get everybody in the state of Texas mixing the soup together, and I think that's going to allow Texas to continue being a leader in the medical research field, regenerative medicine, cell therapy. And so I just want to thank these guys again for having us. The things that come out of this conference you may not see immediately, but you're going to see over the next year, next 5 years, next 10 years, and we're all going to fight to make sure that people that are diseased or injured are going to get to a cure or a better situation, a better quality of life sooner rather than later. Thank you all for hearing me today.
One of the amazing things about these meetings, you hear the backstory of why people are motivated to be in it, and I was really, really touched. I was really touched. My mother had a stroke, so I know what that is. I told you briefly about the Genetics Policy Institute, and you see me up here a lot, but it is certainly not about myself. Genetics Policy Institute is a team of dedicated people. Everything that you've seen produced at the summit that seems to help organizations like Tory's and David's and others, because we connect this world together. The work that I've done would not have any success without my number one collaborator, Alan Fernandez, the Associate Director of GPI. And Alan, of course, was busy doing business outside. I had to remind him he had to speak only because he doesn't stop. He is a 24/7 advocate. And believe me, when he's loaded with a quart of Pete's coffee in the morning and I'm on Skype with him, we melt our computers with so many ideas and things that we try to do, because I'm on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast. Alan is an interesting guy. He's the son of an American diplomat. He was born in Chile. He was raised in Europe and in Romania. He is an international man, to say the least. He went to many of the finest boarding schools in the world, in Switzerland, and Greenwich, and Princeton. He's thrown out of most of them, but it's okay. He's a creative guy, a very, very creative person. And over the years, as he has come to the podium at many meetings now, what he speaks about best, I think, is commitment and the challenges that we face as an advocacy organization, as a community, in dealing with the diversity of stakeholders. So Alan, come up and if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about the things you've learned over the last few years.
Great to be here, and wouldn't it be wonderful if every seat was taken, right? And that's our opportunity. I met Bernie in February 2007. I've wanted a cause that's global since I was probably in 4th grade. I definitely have interest in humans, you know, and over the years I've been able to. I always knew I had interest in humans, that's for sure. But after meeting Bernie in 2007, when I started to learn about. It was actually, no, it was September 2006 was the first time I heard about the word stem cell, because I was working at Burrell and Company. I'd been in technology and publishing and consulting to large brands and sponsorship marketing and doing all these kinds of things. And trying to find where could I apply myself and my skills in a way that I'm driven by what I do from the inside out. Because I wasn't satisfied about, to make money, that's not motivating for me personally. To work in companies where 90% of the people I'm working with I won't stay in touch with after I leave the company, that's not that interesting to me. I have interest in economics, finance, art, music. Wanted to be a surgeon when I was a kid. Wanted to be a rock star. And went through all this path, really not being totally satisfied, but being unsatisfiable about my pursuit to realizing where my own strength and power could be applied in a way that was personally meaningful to me, with high impact to as many people as possible. So then meeting Bernie in February 2007, we were getting ready for the Harvard Stem Cell Institute in October. And it's been a blast ever since. Almost 8 years, I spend more time with Bernie than any other human, And he's consistent, right? He's consistent and he's predictable. And I will always have your back. Yeah. Meeting patients along the way, that's been fascinating. Back in 2008, preparing for Madison, Bernie extended an invite to the Byers, Steve Byer and his son Ben, to speak about ALS. Little did he know, Bernie, when he extended the invite, that Ben had just died. That produced a certain kinship with the Byers. And then you get to know the Byers and you say, wow, Ben, what a remarkable human being he was. Went too quick. And the family was involved in this demise. But I don't know how many other people outside the family are actually connected to what's what it is to be in a family with someone that's afflicted. I certainly believe that only a patient knows what it is to be a patient. How am I supposed to know what it feels like to be in your body at this time? And there's very few people that can connect to that patient. It's the family members, it's the loved ones, and a few friends. And after that, they're just cast off, really. There's not enough support. And I think that's wrong. So we had Ben Byer. Ben Byer did a movie on himself that was about his demise. And I watched it, and I wish I knew Ben. I consider Ben a best friend, but I've never met him because I know I've connected with his spirit, because his spirit rocks. There's others I met along the way. Sam Schmidt, Ida Cahill's here from Conquer Paralysis. Sam back ends in an Indy car into a wall at 2000, the year 2000, and now he's a quad. And he's a successful quad in the standpoint that he's winning races from Indy, in the Indy Series and the Indy Lights Series. He had really good insurance, so he's able to have an advantage that many people that have spinal cord injuries don't have. It was in Pasadena, 2011, World Stem Cell Summit. Sam says to me, all this stuff about collaboration, I haven't seen anything improve. I'm a quad. You know? So that sticks with me. And then along the way, meeting Jacob. Jacob and Jay and George. Jacob's the boy that's going around in the wheelchair. 7 years ago, about 3 weeks ago, he fell off a hayride, and the tire of the hay truck hit his head. He was just out there having fun on Halloween. The only 3 times that family has traveled has been to the World Stem Cell Summit. How about that? Because they're networking for brain trauma, trying to figure out, is there some solution? They live in hope. I went last December to their house. I can't wrap words around the interaction of the caretaker and Jacob and that family. And I'll go to their house in a couple weeks. I can tune out of all the nonsense of this world that doesn't support them and is not helping us. And that's not a bad thing. It's like a sanctuary for me. It's a Zen moment, you know. So there's people along the way that I've met that we have to do a better job taking care of. I always look for ways to motivate. I don't need motivation, but I'm looking for clarity on how can I better act and communicate what we can do, and how can we better marshal our voices so we're moving in more unified fashion. I love music, right? So I'm trying to make analogies to get people's attention. So if you could imagine if there was an airplane called Cell Therapy Airline and it's landing on a runway that has a bunch of potholes on it, it can't land. The plane's going to crash, and everyone's going to perish on this runway. So I make this visualization of potholes in the road, and those are the roadblocks to the impediment of progress. So you could have a pothole that's regulatory, you could have one products, services, tools, technologies, lack of consumer engagement, right? Lack of funding, lack of reimbursement. So we have a runway that has a lot of holes in it. And somehow, in my experience, what I'm observing is that someone will think that it's someone else's responsibility to fill the holes. But this is a community runway, right? We all have to take this road. In the when were we? Palm Beach? 2012. I'm watching this, all these people come in and out of the doors, and I'm thinking, I really need to get their attention. What could I do? So I visualized a DUI checkpoint, you know, and that gets your attention, right? You know, gosh, is my 2 beers going to give me a .08, and then we're going to have all the loss of dignity and financial expense that comes along with that. So that was another visualization that I had, and then the visualization I've had at this meeting is that here we're lacking funding, but billions and billions of dollars are flying across my head electronically from wire transfers. You know, at least it's getting closer. We've just changed our name to Regenerative Medicine Foundation. Now we're going to be able to maybe stand a chance of increasing our opportunity to have the consumers engage with us with a name that's more appropriate for what we do. And related to the music thing, that's just one other analogy is that if we were a symphony, then there's all these symphony members, and it's the cell therapy symphony. How good would it sound right now if we were playing musical instruments, right? So we have to find out a better way and be committed to tuning our instruments and working in unison together, because we're only as powerful as the collective. There's now one stakeholder community that's more or less important than the other. If you have pharma, you have biotechs, you have academic research, you have ethics, policy, law, finance, government, insurance, hospitals, doctors, nurse practitioners, patient advocacy organizations, delivery, you know, cell standardization, cell purity, replication, manufacturing. We live in a very complex world that has an amazing amount of potential to it. And when you map back to the need of the patient and the families, when you map back to that 1 in 3 in this room are going to have a chronic disease, guaranteed. 50% of us, of the 1 in 3, will go bankrupt, guaranteed. Yeah. 10,000 people are turning 65 every day. That's a fact. Alzheimer's, diabetes, Parkinson's, all going up. Federal government writing $1.3+ trillion to fight chronic disease. 70% of the healthcare system expense is in hospitals. No one's doing anything about preventative medicine. No one's fighting against McDonald's. Why is diabetes going up in China? Well, Burger King is about to drop 10,000, 10,000 restaurants in China on top of whatever McDonald's numbers are. So we're in this illogical world that has us creating our own demise, actually, in a lot of different ways. It's unacceptable if we have the skills and technology and know-how. It's unacceptable to not do something for somebody in need. It's no different for us that have the skills and abilities to weave together a regenerative medicine field. It's our civic duty and moral obligation to do better, isn't it? Because we're in a really bad situation here nationally, globally, community, and family-wise, and patient-wise. So there's opportunity for us to aggregate our voices and take the power of what you do. What you do, I commend you. How many people are doing what you all do? Not enough, right? So now we have an opportunity to do more to support you and do more to support Conquer for Paralysis and IDA. Just because I don't have spinal cord injury in my family doesn't mean I can't lend my voice to some family that has spinal cord. Wouldn't it be nice if all the voices were united in one and we could wag a tail? We have a country that 76% of the population is into stem cells. And if we had to wag a tail, we couldn't knock over a glass. Ineffective. So that's unacceptable. So we as a field have to be more committed to unifying our voices, putting them into one, and demanding that those that need to provide us more support give us the support. And the support has to come from a lot of different areas. But certainly at the governmental area, if our issue is with lack of access to compassionate use, or if our NIH budgets are getting challenged on a scientific level, is that acceptable? Is it acceptable to have elected officials that have the worst performance since the 20s? Is that acceptable for our tax dollars when we have chronic disease the way it is? So it's now the time to band together, be a voice of one. I'm committed to come up with some engagement mechanism where it makes it easier, okay? All the things that I've been dreaming about are happening, okay? I wanted to go to the Milken conference, but I didn't want to spend $6,000 on a ticket. I got a ticket to the Milken Conference this year at this event, right? I wanted to go to J.P. Morgan, but I'm not on the invite list. I'm now invited to J.P. Morgan from this event, okay? These are all things that have been visuals for a long time, and I never give up. I never forget, never give up, never give up, never give up. Why? Because civic duty and moral obligation to do something better than we are doing now, okay? I'm trying to control myself, you see? But I am a little disturbed. I'm a little disturbed that we're not doing enough for those that are sick. I'm disturbed at myself that I'm not fully doing all I can do, because I know I can do better. On a scale from 1 to 10, I put myself at a 3 for effectiveness. I swear. A 3 for, you know? Because when I'm at 10, then I'll have 50,000 people to talk to, right? And we're going to produce that. We're going to produce that opportunity to unify in a way that we all work together and walk in the future with one vision to a bullseye. One vision. No one's more important or less important than the other. But together, we can have a big tail. We can make a difference. We can demand. We can get organized enough where we can put in the energy of Kennedy going to the moon, Martin Luther King, civil rights. It's that important, right? My request to you, I could talk all day on this kind of stuff, you know? This is sort of like in my DNA now. But my request to you is have a good time here at the summit. You've had a good time. Well, bring some people back next time, right? Bring more people back. It's your booby prize if you only come back by yourself, okay? It's your booby prize if you only tell your assistant that you've gone away, and maybe your husband and wife or whatever, right? That's the booby prize. The opportunity is to have these seats full. Considering the chronic disease and the cost to our families and our country that this room is empty, that's an injustice to the patients in no uncertain terms. So do what you need to do to raise people's consciousness, including your own. Become uncomfortable. Get used to being uncomfortable. It's not so bad to be uncomfortable. The world's not going to get any better by us being comfortable. So let's get uncomfortable. Let's learn how to make requests, more requests of others, more demands of others, certainly those that are elected officials in Washington. And then we might stand a better chance of shepherding the field forward. I'm committed personally to an engagement mechanism that makes it easy for people to engage. The one other thing I wanted to share, if I had a vision of a portal, information portal, that will be for everybody. All the disease indications, okay? Been thinking about it. I did a draft of what it would look like at this summit. We'll get the funding. Need $100,000 maybe, right? The money's not the issue. It's developing the credibility, making the ask, and being open to work with people in a way where you're so for the team that they have to work with you. Much more seductive if I'm making it about something much more important than me, humanity. Humanity. The furthest I keep it away from me, the better. Committed to make it better. I won't give up. We are going to launch something probably next year that's going to give global attention for sure to stem cells and regenerative medicine. It's been a 7-year vision. And now it's happening, you know? And now I can appease my passions, more of my passions. Music, hanging with rock stars, artists, patients, business people, researchers. Bring them all together. Do something that's so fun that we all engage. Move as a concerted one voice, and I think we might surprise ourselves of what can happen and what needs to happen, so this room isn't empty in Atlanta next year, for example. But there's a lot of energy, you know, just warming up, and that's all I have to say for today. That's my Charlie Sheen moment. Yeah.
I can obviously retire now after that talk. Alan, that was beautiful. And in my view, and the audience that's here, all of you are rock stars. All of you are rock stars. It's incredible the amount of energy. And I'm blessed as a human being for 11 years to be working with patient advocates like Tory and like David and like Alan. And believe me, we're all in our own thing and doing our own thing, and sometimes we have to work together, and sometimes we get annoyed at each other and everything. But in the end, we're all humans. We all have heart, or we wouldn't be doing this, right? And we have to be cheerleaders for what each other is doing. It's very, very important. And if there's any success in Genetics Policy Institute and the Regenerative Medicine Foundation, it's not about us, it's about the bigger picture. Good things can happen if you're working for the world, and it doesn't matter. We've already done more than any of us have ever dreamed we were going to do. And it's because we've been open and passionate advocates. So I want to open it up to the audience for questions. And if I have to leave this room in 5 minutes because I have another panel to be on, I would like this panel, a little discussion to go on, if you don't mind, Alan, if you could, because some of you might have some questions in your own experiences. We have a patient, family, a caretaker with sickle cell anemia. I'd like you to get up to the microphone and tell a little bit about your own story. So would you do that now? I'm going to exit stage left, if you'll forgive me, and I apologize because I have another panel that I have to do. But I'm so honored that you've been here, and especially want to salute all of you for your accomplishments. Salute my dear friend Alan for a most beautiful talk. Thank you. Thank you all.
So I'm a mom. I have a grown-up daughter with sickle cell disease. And as I said to Bernie and his beautiful wife, Cheryl, I found my calling, my place, my people last year in San Diego when I came to the World Stem Cell Summit. When you are the parent of a chronically ill child, everything in your life is always gauged first by that child's health and well-being, and then everything else. So I had a child young, and so my education, everything was always filtered through basically keeping her alive and providing the best life I could for her. And part of that for me was, of course, being informed on what was going on in the medical field with sickle cell and whatever developments. And from the day she was diagnosed, it was my firm belief that science would cure her. And so we went, as people go when you have a sick child. So she had some really, really good days, some really good years, some not so good days, so not good years. I was involved with the Sickle Cell Foundation, and they did a lot of they did a lot for the children, the babies and the preteens. But once my daughter turned 22, our lives changed completely, because suddenly she was an adult, and we went from the pediatrics section over to the adult section, and our lives were literally turned upside down. Suddenly everybody who wanted to help us and wanted to stop my daughter's pain was accusing her of being a drug seeker. I was having to go back and do the same speeches I'd done 20 years earlier to get her well looked after. The support system that was there to help me wasn't there. It wasn't there. And so I kind of narrowed my life again and just concentrated on keeping her alive and keeping her healthy and waiting for the cure. So we fast forward another few years, and I find you guys. And at a time when I know my daughter may not be cured, because we've got complications and she's old now. And old is a good thing, because I didn't think she'd get to be this old. The dilemma I have is, I don't know if it's a dilemma, but in the last year, I've done all of the serum board meetings that I could when they were in my area. I've done all the meetings at USC and at UCLA. I supported Dr. Cohen's plea for funds for his sickle cell trials, which we were funded. But I still kept having this feeling, kind of like, where do I fit? What can I do? Because it has to be more than just about me. And I mean, I am the 4th generation of mothers in my family to have a child with sickle cell. I am the first one that had a child at a time when you could be tested and told whether or not you'd have the trait or the possibility that there'd be a problem, and my test was a false negative. So, and because of that, they've changed the laws, and now everybody gets an accurate test. So I stepped back, and I've been meeting for so long so many mothers that kind of are draping themselves over their children and saying, what can we do? And I think Alan's idea of us having a voice like a choir is the answer. We Americans, we're all about the individual and the ideal, and we really band together when there's enough noise and the message is to do something higher than ourselves. So I'm going to sign up with Alan. And my husband just got laid off, and he's this amazing radio guy, and he's done all of these amazing campaigns for for music stations, and he's like, he looked at me when he got laid off, and he said, well, now maybe we can do your thing. So we're going to join Alan and help Alan do his thing of providing that choir, or starting that choir for stem cell. And I don't know how many of you are here that have somebody special in your family, but know that my mother heart is with you, and all those mothers in my family that have passed away. We're all still beating with you and supporting you and loving you. So, Alan, I'm going to sign up. Okay. Thank you.
Oh. Anybody have any questions? You're going to tell us how many people you're bringing to the World Stem Cell Summit in Atlanta?
I will try and recruit some more. My name's Steve Schmidt. I'm with Vivo Biosciences. I've been in therapy development research since the late 70s, and luckily have brought 2 drugs to market.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Yes, I brought 2 drugs to market for the benefit of patients, and I'm very relieved that they are relieved with the use of these therapies. But one thing I learned over the course of my career is if we can distill down the message to something very simple that can be conveyed to those in power to cut the reins free to let us operate and be more compassionate, is to very directly say to them, the patient is waiting. A very famous oncologist uses this every time he gets before the federal government, and it does move people when they really think of the depth of it. So I would say that that would be a good mantra.
Great. Anybody else? Mary Schneider? Tell us something about advocacy. You're an advocate. Your reputation precedes you.
Okay, if I miss my plane, it's your fault.
Thanks, Ed.
My name's Mary Schneider. I'm one of the success stories. I'm very fortunate and blessed. My son was diagnosed with cerebral palsy He was born in 2002. By the time he was almost 3 years old, he weighed a whole 26 pounds. Nobody could tell me what was wrong with him. And I finally trapped his doctor and lied and said he had a cold. And I got in front of the door and I said, you tell me what's wrong with him, or you get me to somebody who can tell me what's going on with him, because he's not growing out anything. So finally we got to the pediatric neurologist. We got the diagnosis of CP, and the pediatric neurologist actually had CP herself, so I knew what she was talking about. I had done some work with Easter seals with friends of mine, and I just basically was sent out the door, and off you go. There's your diagnosis. It was pretty devastating, but within 24 hours, I literally woke up the next morning and went, wait a minute, I banked his cord blood. I wonder if they're doing anything with it. And so I thought, well, I couldn't be the first one to think of that. Oops. I kind of was. And it was a journey to try to find a doctor to listen to me. I had people that are now my friends that actually yelled at me when I finally found their phone numbers. And some physicians that finally they just kind of came along with me. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to find somebody, and either you can come along with, you got nothing to lose, or I'm just going to leave you behind, because you've got mice, I've got my son, I got to get this done. I think it's going to work. So fortunately, I found Joanne Kurtzberg at Duke University. She's kind of the person that pushes everything forward as far as cord blood and oncology and rare diseases. She called me back after about 2 weeks and said, well, if you want to get on the plane, we'll go ahead and we'll give it a try. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. Well, I am, but, so we did that, and the drip it's 20 minutes for the cells to drip in, IV, and 2 hours of saline afterwards, just to nudge things along, apparently. Within 5 days, from a kid that was never, well, he was hungry, but he wouldn't eat because he was terrified of choking, and so was I. That was my whole life, was keeping him alive. And he couldn't speak. Cognitively, he was all there. He was just trapped inside his body. He could walk, but his arms and his hands were getting tighter, and it was just getting worse and worse. But 5 days later, he came up and asked in a sentence form for food, which blows you away. You're like, I didn't just hear that, but you can't react to it. This is the key. You can't react to it because kids want to perform. So that was the hardest part for me, was not being able to go, wow. I had to wait until he went out of the room. Every little thing mattered. And within 3 months, he was cleared of all of his issues. And he's now 12 years old in 6th grade. And so I've got a 12-year-old boy, so be careful what you wish for. But he's great. So I just met all these wonderful people in advocacy along the way, because they saw me out there being thrown under the bus on Capitol Hill. I had to, my punishment for assisting Barack Obama in his first speech on cord blood stem cells on the Senate floor was I got a call from the White House, and I had to go and talk to Bush. President Bush, when he was doing the veto for stem cell research. I was the only one there saying, don't do this, you don't understand what you're doing. It's at the cost of millions of people's lives, please don't do this. So you just kind of go from there, and you just keep going. You get in those tough rooms, but you just got to keep on going, no matter what. So I hope that helps. And Alan, you've already got me.
Thank you.
Now I got to catch my plane. Bye.
If you have anyone in the spinal cord area, right, in family, right, then Conquer Paralysis, Ida's group, has put together a prize. Yeah. That's a good place to go. It's a good go-to place to go, because Sam is committed to the dysfunction of the advancement of the field of medicine to support spinal cord research, right? So that's Conquer Paralysis for spinal cord. Put your voice there, right? ALS, you have ALS Worldwide. Steve Beyer and Barbara Beyer have touched over 5,000 families. they are so good at advocacy, they're non-scientists, so good at advocacy that the Mayo Clinic, Forbes Norris, all the top ALS clinics bring the buyers in to get graded on how well the hospitals are doing for patient engagement at the hospitals. The buyers, non-scientists, non-doctors, have so much influence that the leading institutes for ALS shift the way they are treating the patients just based on their input. That's how much credibility they've developed. I wish the ALS bucket challenge, I wish all that money was going to the buyers. Yeah. They're doing a clinical trial right now. They're raising money for a clinical trial with crowdfunding involving a university in Greece, and they're actually having some success raising the money, but just know that there's a top-notch clinical trial that might have some major advantage for ALS that's about to take off. And I don't think it's stem cell related, actually. And there might be some applicability to Huntington's as well, which would be pretty cool. Katie Jackson, she's a rock star. Holy moly. And Mike, a guy dying of Huntington's, has a pretty good spirit. The guy's jovial. So we have Katie for Huntington's, Byers for ALS, spinal cord paralysis. We have Tory's AIM. We have David Bales in Texas. You know, I think there's an opportunity to have still a single portal where we can highlight the diseases that we're all fighting for. I know there's a person in the room here that's son has a brain trauma issue, and a week before she called me, I got another call from a family that's dealing with brain trauma. So when you're at GPI, you get these kinds of phone calls, and it's individual families now that are going on this mission to figure out, okay, what do I do now? And it's in a day of technology and social media and all this kind of stuff, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. How horrible. How many people could be searching for sickle cell? Some foundations are better than other foundations. Some foundations are putting way too much money in administrative costs. Some are much more nimble. Some foundations have so much arrogance that if I could sell their arrogance by the kilo, I would be a billionaire. Some foundations are more transparent and inclusive of everybody. Some foundations are more transactional, where it's all about the money. And they become this mechanism for making money. And it's all about how much money did they raise that feeds into an inefficient system in the end. We know this. You can look at the tax returns. So all this is happening. It's like we're all off aim. We're all off aim. And we can do better. Yeah, we could use some resources at GPI. You can write us Regenerative Medicine Foundation. You could make it payable to GPI or Regenerative Medicine Foundation. No problem. It'll go to good use, you know. I'm trying to get the portal developed in a way where it's for everybody. So all disease advocacy organizations that play well can be part of it. We can actually create a portal that everybody benefits, and it's not about one disease in particular. That's part of our problem, is just there's just so many diseases, right? So many different approaches. And we think that sometimes that these, that there's effective action going on in Washington. They do these fly-ins and they go talk to health aides, 20-something health aides without a medical background degree, that are going to take a message to an overwhelmed senator that's just more pissed off at the other senator or whatever, you know. It's like, it's a little illogical right now in how this is going down. Yeah.
We had just that experience. We were trying to get the sickle cell education bill, I can't remember the exact number, reenactment bill, refunded, and it was for $50 million over a 5-year period of time for all the sickle cell agencies throughout the country. So it wasn't a lot of money. And so what we did was in Southern California, because it's such a, I don't want to say sore spot, empty spot. Well, basically, if you're a person with sickle cell disease, you die 10 to 15 years sooner than any other place in the country. And so we made a list, and we went to visit all of the Congress people for Southern California. And we talked to their health aides, and we had exactly the experience you're talking about. We went in, first of all, we were told that there weren't enough of us, because there would be 3 or 4 of us, and how we'd be so much better off if we were coming in like the people who were coming in to talk to them about type 2 diabetes. This is what we were, it was the most amazing experience, and you're right. Every disease.
There was a Genentech had a particular patent that they wouldn't let up. They weren't using the patent, and they wouldn't let it up, and it could help ALS. And it got to this point where the ALS community, the buyers and others, they were going to take 100 ALS patients, and they were going to get out of their chairs and crawl up the steps in Congress. It would have been a PR fiasco for Genentech, so they released the patent the day before that event was scheduled, right? That's the kind of hand-to-hand combat we have to do, right? Yeah.
One thing I forgot to say in my talk, Ron and I were here, and so we have 7 children between the 2 of us, and we rarely get to attend meetings like this together. So it was a good opportunity for us to watch a movie. So we watched a movie while we were here one night, and the slide, the opening slide on it was a quote by Mark Twain, and I shared this with Dr. Singh over dinner the other night, but it just felt like it needed to happen, you know, have one of those epiphany moments. And so the quote is, there are 2 days in your life that are the most important: the day you were born and the day you realized why you were meant to be here. So I feel like you advocates here, you know, sometimes these moments hit us, and we always relate it back probably to a sad occasion of when we realized we were an advocate. But carry that with you every day, that you are an advocate for someone, for a large community, whether it's small in number. It's a lot of people that are depending on you. So anyway, I just want to share that.
I don't know when the panel, what time are we supposed to end? 30 minutes past. How about this? Let me read one quote, okay? One quote. Here we go. This is a okay, there we go.
My daddy that I love so much loved Barton's quotations, and he said, what they need from me is try to mess with me and see who gets messed with. That's the clean version. So that's kind of how we feel up here, you guys.
This is a quote that's on my wall, and someone randomly sent it to me just yesterday, but it's I think it's applicable. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become, and everything else is secondary. Steve Jobs.